Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of Curse of the Forbidden Island by C.A. King, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. Chapter 1. You're fired. She had heard those words enough to last several lifetimes. And in each and every instance, it wasn't her fault. It never was. She worked the hardest, did the most. The other employees took advantage of their positions, chatting on their phones and playing games. So why? Why was this always happening? Why was she always the one being penalized while the others were rewarded with raises? Why was she the one who was always being fired? Because Celine, her former boss, said, reading into her sightless gaze, the customers find it difficult to approach you. His lips curled down, fingers snapping. Something about you makes them nervous, anxious. We've had more complaints since hiring you than during the entire time we've been open. That's quite a feat. What? She asked. Exactly about me is so off-putting. Her eyes rolled, foot tapping. I'm a nice person. I greet people with a friendly smile. I offer my personal assistance. You hover, he replied. You stare relentlessly. Your perfume stinks too. That's not a good thing. People are allergic. People steal, she snapped. I was simply being proactive. We're an adult pleasure store, the man argued. Most people don't want to be watched while they pick out a new sex enhancement toy. I read up on all these products, Celine snapped in a matter-of-fact tone. I was merely offering up my expertise on them. It was upselling. Most companies thank their employees for that. The rest of the staff don't even want to work with you, he said, shaking his head. That's because they know I upstage them, Celine replied, crossing her arms over her chest. I do all the work while they sit around. I'm not here to argue all day, he said with a sigh. It simply didn't work out. Come back on Friday for your final check and papers. He waddled off to join the staff meeting already in progress. Celebrations were underway for the latest employee of the month, a guy who laughed in earnest whenever he heard the word boobs. How was that good for sales? Celine's arms rose, falling back down at her sides. It wasn't fair. She'd done everything she could to make this job work. Memorizing the names of 50 different brands of anal lube wasn't easy. Neither was trying out all the makes of vibrators. After one night, walking normally went out the window. Sitting wasn't particularly easy either. Too many orgasms hurt. Who knew? She did, that too. There was a fine line between pain and pleasure, and she'd walked it like a tightrope. It was true, too much of the first affected the latter and vice versa. Just the right amount, however, was intimately tantalizing. The frigid 4-block walk heated up. A snowball had no chance in her mind, at least for the next few minutes. Finding a living, breathing partner was going about as well as landing a permanent job, except with far less interviews. Fantasizing was all she had. The same tiny snowflakes which stuck to her jacket sizzled as if they touched her skin. That was the same as that was the same as life. Some survived while others perished. She was the latter. Nothing she did ever went well. It was hard, constantly being misunderstood, while those around her never bothered to take the time to try to figure her out. The world was a busy place. It took too long to stop and smell the roses, or coffee, or anything else, unless it was soap. People loved to smell soap, hated perfume, but loved soap. It was weird. The stuff was just as floral scented, but no one ever sniffed freshly shampooed hair and complained the clean fragrance was too strong. One hand dove inside an oversized purse, searching for keys. They jingled about, but her fingertips couldn't quite touch them. Gotcha, she exclaimed, climbing the stairs to her front door. You've got to be kidding, she sighed, stomping one foot. Her head turned up toward the sky. It's winter, people. The paper ripped from the door, an eviction notice. This was perfect in and of itself. Unfortunately, underneath it was another notice, that one from the gas company. No job, no heat, no place to live, no friends or family to bum a couch off of for a week or two. She peered sightlessly at the door, blinking. What else could go wrong? Snow slid off the sloped roof of the townhouse, landing on her head. She shouldn't have asked. Chapter 2. There was only one place to go when she needed a favor or job. The employment center had only a skeleton staff left. One of them always came through for her in a pinch. Hopefully, Connie had forgotten the promise she made to never show up begging again. Hi. Connie stared over her silver-rimmed glasses. You're back. Yeah, she sighed. I can't help you. Connie walked around the side of the bulletin board. Few people actually visited the employment center anymore, but the position listing still needed to be up to date for anyone who was inclined to drop in. Just this once. Her palms met as if praying to the god of jobs. I swear, cross my heart. The finger drew imaginary lines over her chest. That's what you say every time, Connie complained. I can get in trouble, you know. I'm lucky no one's noticed all the complaints about you so far. Why do they always call here? I can do better, Celine blurted out. I know I can do better. Just give me one more chance, please. I need a job or a place to stay. Connie groaned. I can't. Stomps replaced her usual light-footedness. You really shouldn't be putting me in this position over and over. Celine followed her into an employee-only office. There must be something available for someone like me. I'll take anything. I don't care if it's shoveling manure. Do yourself a favor, Connie suggested. Go get your license. If you could drive, you could have a ton of job opportunities as a courier, and you wouldn't need me. You know I swore I'd never do that. Her bottom lip puffed out, forming a pathetic pout. I don't have the right temperament. I'd be a total candidate for road rage. Besides, it costs money to take the tests, and I don't have any. She glanced down at fidgeting fingers. You can't be in here, Connie said, grabbing a stack of papers to sort. Seriously, you need to go before someone sees you. Shoo. Her hand waggled at the wrist. Selena plopped into a seat across from the desk, slouching. You're my only friend, she added, an exasperated sigh at the end of her words. If you don't leave, you won't have any left, Connie said. I'm going down the hall to the photocopier. When I get back, I want to see an empty office. Celine nodded. Great. Her brows rose and fell quickly. She glanced over her shoulder before rummaging through her friend's desk. Jackpot. It wasn't stealing. Connie left the stack of new listings on her desk on purpose. Even if they hadn't been approved, yet they were on the verge of being posted. How many listings were turned down by an employment center anyway? She stuffed one of the cards in her jacket pocket, leaving a thank you note in its place. A gust of wind greeted her at the door, instantly whipping the exposed skin on her face red. A long scarf came to the rescue, wrapping around her face and making sure her ears were well protected. Exposed skin could freeze in less than 5 minutes, and it was a long trek into the wind before reaching home. Home. Soon there wasn't going to be one. She ducked into a coffee shop, pulling out the change in her pocket and shoving it around in her palm with one finger. Like that was going to make a difference. There wasn't enough, no matter how many times she counted it, unless the cashier was willing to take a little pocket lint as collateral, and that wasn't likely. I'd like to pay for the next person's order, an elderly gentleman at the counter said. I think at my age, it's about time I give a little back. She rushed into the line behind him. That's very kind of you. He walked away with a satisfied smile on his face. It was unfortunate a man of his stature actually believed buying someone a coffee was his golden ticket into heaven. Not that she minded. A freebie was welcome at the moment. Thanks. Her eyebrows lifted and fell quickly, matching time with an obligatory smile. A hot coffee was exactly what she needed. It wasn't the fancy sort with low-fat soy milk, shots of sweet flavors, and happy faces drawn on frothy foam made out of chocolate shavings or cinnamon. Coffee was meant to be strong, a bit nutty, and bitter. Usually it was black, but as things were, she needed all the nourishment she could get. With that logic, 2 milks emptied into the mug along with the java. A table in a quiet corner sang to her. There, maybe no one would notice she was taking longer than the allotted time limit. Being accused of loitering after buying something never made sense to her, especially in a nearly empty place. How could anyone know who was planning on buying more? Only a psychic could. She grabbed a newspaper off a vacated nearby table before settling in. Her lips puckered, a stream of air blowing on the hot liquid in her mug while the newspaper rustled, opening to the middle pages. The mug came down on the table, placed carefully so as not to spill a single drop. She tossed the newspaper onto an adjacent table, side-eyeing it several times before turning to face the wall. It was criminal how ads for casinos were allowed. She was an addict. There was no two ways about it. Gambling was just as bad as drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes, and was the reason why she ended up in the position she was in. People, family, friends, they all grew tired of the excuses, the constant begging for money, the stealing, the lying. She'd done it all and lost everything. It wasn't until reaching rock bottom she accepted her illness. Her illness was with her for life. After that, there'd been a few meetings with those who shared her love for sloths and ponies. Unfortunately, all that had changed when the pandemic hit. Not everyone could meet online for a video chat, and if they did, it wasn't the same. She made the executive decision to go it alone and was doing fine until just then. Celine licked her lips, eyes drawn back to the paper. If she made one big score, her head shook. No. She'd only end up worse than before. Maybe this time someone would bash her head in for not repaying her debts. The mug hit her lips. There was no need to cool it down this time. With all her inner debating, it was barely lukewarm. She gulped back a mouthful, eyes fixed on the table in front of her, but registering nothing. What did I do to Lady Luck? The woman was never on her side. In fact, the bitch was never around, period. Nothing good ever happened. She sighed, hand reaching in her jacket pocket, returning with a job posting. Must be able to relocate, she snorted. That one was covered. Must enjoy warm temperatures and the outside. A frown formed. Where was this going? Must not need constant connection to the outside world. Aha, this was amazing. A dream job literally fell into her lap. She held the card in the air, bringing it down to her lips for a loud smacking kiss. Thank you, Lady Luck, you beautiful woman. I never doubted you. This job was perfect for her. The details of her responsibilities weren't important. All she cared about was it paid well, included a place to stay as well as meals, and she was trading cold snow for white sand and blue skies. The job was on an island resort with beaches and tropical shorelines as far as the eye could see. Not to mention, it catered rather exclusively to well-to-do women. By next week, she'd be living in the posh life, learning to surf and eating crab meat at every meal. If things worked out, Connie could come for a visit too.